Welcome to The Hypnotist, brought to you by the hypnotherapist demanded by celebrities, CEOs and even royalty, Adam Cox. These recordings took place live from Adam's clinic in London's world-famous Harley Street. This features powerful hypnosis, so do not listen while driving or operating machinery. This recording is not suitable for those with epilepsy or severe mental health issues.
Take a deep breath in, and as you breathe in, imagine that you're breathing in a feeling of calm and relaxation. With each and every breath, feeling more deeply and calmly relaxed, and feeling that as you breathe out, you're exhaling any tension, any stress, any anxiety. Breathing in that relaxation, becoming aware of any tension wherever it may be in your body, focusing on that tension, and as you breathe out, just letting go of that tension now. That's it, going deeper and deeper relaxed. And I want you to use your imagination to imagine that you're in a library, and this is not a standard library. I want you to imagine that you're in one of the most impressive libraries that has ever existed. Imagine going to that place right now and wandering around that library, perhaps seeing the rows and rows of bookshelves, perhaps the impressive architecture of the building, perhaps the decoration on the inside. And I want you to get a feeling of being impressed just to be in this library. And what I'd like you to do is imagine that somewhere in this library is the most comfortable sofa that has ever existed. And I want you to imagine taking a seat on that comfortable sofa in this impressive library, allowing your whole body to just sink into that sofa, feeling deeper and deeper relaxed. Imagine closing your eyes. That's it. Close your eyes and just feel deeply relaxed. And I want you to imagine that as you breathe in that feeling of relaxation and exhale tension, with each and every breath, you're going deeper and deeper relaxed. In fact, so relaxed that you will imagine that you will fall asleep on that sofa in that library. Imagining that you're just about to yawn, and you know what yawning feels like. And sometimes when you see someone yawning, there is an irresistible urge to yawn yourself. And imagine doing that, just an imaginary yawn inside your own body, going deeper and deeper relaxed. That's it. Imagine that you're about to drift off to sleep, and do that now. Imagine just drifting off to sleep. And imagine that you are now in a dream, seeing yourself on that sofa, completely fast asleep. In fact, you may even go so far as to pick up a hand or an arm and feel how loose and limp that arm is. And as you let go, it just flops back into the sofa, convincing you that that conscious part of your mind is completely and deeply fast asleep. Because now I'm communicating to your unconscious mind, the part which loves to have an adventure, that loves creativity and imagination. And I want you to appreciate that within this library is so much information about how and what to do about anything that you can imagine. Imagine that there are books in this library that can teach you valuable skills that can increase your income. Perhaps you can learn lessons from the stories of the most successful people that have ever lived. Imagine that there are certain areas of fascination that could generate new ideas, new ways of thinking, new ideas about the world that exist in the pages of these books. And I want you to appreciate, as you look at these thousands upon thousands of books in this library, that it wouldn't be possible to read all of this information. In fact, you would need to be very selective about which books you read in order to make the most of the time you spend reading. And as you go through the aisles, I want you to identify a particular book, and this is simply a book about speed reading, a book that will enable you to read all the other books that you may want to read at a faster speed. I want you to imagine taking that book, the speed reading book, putting it on a table, pulling up a chair, and starting to open the pages of this speed reading book. And in chapter 1, it tells a story of someone that was the fastest speed reader that ever existed. And I want you to imagine that as you read the pages, you start to visualize what that person must have been like. A person that could read a book that would normally take someone maybe 7, 8, or 9 hours, that they can read the entire book in perhaps just an hour. They could read 7 to 10 times faster than the average person. And as you learn about this person, you learn within this book that this isn't a superhuman ability. This is simply a skill, and that most of how people are taught to read is a slow and ineffective way of reading. And it occurs to you that if you knew the principles that the fastest reader on the planet applies, then it would be the case that you would also read faster. And as that principle is planted deep in your unconscious mind, I want you to imagine stepping into the book and actually meeting this very fast speed reader. I want your unconscious mind, your imagination, to create an image of whatever your unconscious believes a speed reader looks like. And this is someone that can read 10 times faster than the average person. In fact, you can witness them scanning a book and reading the information in that book at a rapid speed. And it makes you wonder, how is it possible that this person can read so much faster than the average person? And I want you to just observe what they do. And perhaps you notice that this person that speed reads doesn't simply begin at the beginning of the book. But first of all, they look at the book itself. They look at the title, they read the contents, and they're building up a picture of what would be covered in the entire book. As you witness this speed reader, you get a sense that they are eliciting their own motivation. They are wondering why they want to read the material, deciding in advance what it is that they want to learn or know or understand. And as you observe this, it occurs to you that simply by knowing why you are reading any material increases the motivation and therefore primes your unconscious mind to absorb more of what it is that you're looking for. In the same way that if you decide that you were looking for blue cars, when you just walk on the street, suddenly you're going to see more of those blue cars. And those blue cars were always there. But deciding in advance to look for blue cars will enable you to see more blue cars. And therefore, knowing why you are reading the material will enable your unconscious mind to accelerate your ability to notice what you're looking for and to use that information in whichever way you've decided is most useful for you. As you observe this very fast speed reader, imagine that you can pay attention to what's happening inside their mind. Because inside the mind of an average reader is a tendency to subvocalize. This subvocalization is almost like reading out loud but inside your own head. And the problem of subvocalizing is that you are restricted to read at the same speed in which you can talk. And although you can talk much faster and therefore do that inside your own mind, you are still limited to the speed of speech. Whereas when you are inside the mind of this speed reader, you notice that there is no subvocalization. In fact, there is a process known as chunking. Rather than reading individual words and sounding out those words inside their own mind, there is a process of chunking 4 or 5 words together. And actually, each sentence just requires looking at 2 different points, meaning that glancing twice at each line in a book is more than sufficient to get an essence of what is involved in that entire phrase. Most words in a book are joining words or words that are fillers. Words such as the and or to is not essential to extracting the information that you require from that book. And therefore, by reducing or minimizing or eradicating either vocalization, where you're mouthing the words silently under your breath, or subvocalization, where you're sounding the words out inside your mind, and replacing it with simply visually observing chunks of words, will enable you to rapidly increase the speed at which your unconscious mind can extract the valuable information from within the books. Because everyone has heard the story of the old travelers, the settlers, out in the Wild West, where they would pan for gold. And I want you to imagine that when they were panning for gold, they would sift through lots of mud and rubble to find those small nuggets of gold that would be hidden somewhere in all that silt and soil. And imagine that within a book, lots of what you're reading is simply the silt and the soil, and it's the nuggets of information that you are really looking for. And from this point forward, you will, by reducing vocalization and increasing a wider visual span, where you are able to see more words per fixation. Each time you look, you're able to observe chunks of words together, will enable your unconscious mind to sift through the unnecessary words and to hone in on the nuggets, the gold, the useful information that is really necessary to achieve the very reason why you are reading that material. And also by spending the time to look at the contents, the titles, the headings, and also a little trick that many speed readers do is before they properly read the book, they tend to have the habit of skimming through very rapidly and just looking once at each page, just to get a sense of what the entire book is about before they actually start reading. And all of these things are planting seeds of ideas deep in your unconscious mind that will enable you to rapidly increase the speed at which you can read books and, more importantly, retain the most useful information. And like anything, the more you practice, the better and more effective you become. Many people find that the first time they learn how to touch type, it actually becomes slower than just using maybe 1 or 2 fingers on a keyboard. But that's only at the beginning. Once the mind and the unconscious mind gets used to this new way of typing on a keyboard without looking, it rapidly becomes much, much faster than the old way. And so long as you're happy to take 1 step backwards to take many steps forward, you will very rapidly learn that by chunking information, skimming through the books, and really focusing on why you are reading that particular book, identifying the motive first, will rapidly increase your ability to find the nuggets of gold within any book that you're reading and retain and access that information, because you can filter out all of that superfluous and unnecessary words that are contained within that particular book. From this point onwards, we are planting a seed of a brand new belief, and that belief is that you can read faster, much faster than you have before, and much faster than most people can read. I don't know whether it will happen in the next few days, weeks, or months, but I know that soon you will be reading 5 to perhaps 10 times faster than you've ever read before. Your brain will be able to extract the essential principles, key bits of information within any book that you're reading, and you will notice that you can read many bits of information simply by glancing at a page or, in fact, a paragraph. It may be that over time, you don't even need to look at a line in a book once or twice, but perhaps you can glance just at a paragraph or maybe even a page and trust that your unconscious mind will extract the very most important and precious information from that page that you've been looking at. Whether it's in a few days, a few weeks, a few months, soon and very soon, your unconscious mind will be able to rapidly increase the speed at which you can read. And by reading quicker, you will be able to learn at a faster rate. In current times, it has never been so important to be able to learn quickly. And reading is still one of the most effective ways to learn new information, gather new insights, be able to develop new distinctions. And I want you to consider that reading faster than most people is a huge competitive advantage. There is a saying that in the kingdom of the blind, the one-eyed man is king. And I want you to get a sense of what that really means. That if nobody can see at all, having just a single eye is a huge advantage. And if most people tend to read slowly, and maybe vocalize or sub-vocalize, and maybe don't even finish a book because it just takes too much time, having the ability to read 5 to 10 times quicker than the average person can make you a king within the realm of learning. Being able to learn rapidly is an advantage, enabling you to be the best in your field, enabling you to leap perhaps years above other people that don't learn at the same speed. And I want you to create a picture in your mind's eye now of what your future will look like, being able to read 5 to 10 times faster than you were before. What new skills would you like to learn? What new insight or industry do you want to be more aware of? What would you like to increase your knowledge on? And how will you apply that knowledge or those skills directly in your life to take your life in exactly the direction that you want to take it? Allow your unconscious imagination to play some movies in your mind right now about what your future will look like with this advantage, this superhuman ability to read so much faster than you ever have before. And as you do so, just know that this skill is like any other skill. The more you practice, the better you get. And very soon, I want you to imagine that you're climbing out of the mind of that speed reader, but taking that knowledge, that insight, and most importantly, the belief, the conviction that you can rapidly read. And that will happen very soon for you. You will taking that conviction with you, and I want you to imagine now climbing back inside the conscious part of you, which is fast asleep on that very comfortable sofa. Because in a few moments' time, I will count from 1 to 10 to awaken you. You will awaken with an absolute conviction that you have the cognitive and mental capacity to read very quickly. That simply by scanning through the book before you read it will prime your unconscious mind to read more quickly. That by knowing the motive for reading a particular book will prime your unconscious mind to look for whatever is most necessary and essential depending on your motives. That by removing and reducing the tendency to mouth out loud or under your breath, or even inside your own mind, and instead replacing that by capturing the image of the words rather than the sound of the words, will rapidly increase your brain's ability to read quickly. And by reading quickly, you will be able to filter out so much of the unnecessary words and language and hone in on the nuggets of gold that are actually the very reason why you're reading that book anyway. And the more you do this, the more you will be able to do it even faster. And whether it's in a few weeks, a few months, or a few years, you will be able to read 10 times faster than your current speed. In a few moments, I will count from 1 to 10 to awaken you, but you will awaken with these new insights, these new approaches, and a complete belief, an absolute conviction that you will be reading rapidly soon. Starting to count to awaken you. 1, 2, 3, waking up. 4, 5, 6, more alert. 7, 8, open your eyes, open your eyes. 9, 10, wide awake, wide awake, wide awake.